This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
Welcome back, everybody, to Wrestling Omakase. It is episode number 205, and this week I am joined by a returning guest. Hello, Jeri.
Hey, thanks for having me back. The magical writing girl of Voices of Wrestling has returned.
There you go. You got to have a lot of nicknames, just like Joe. So that'll be one, and then you got to come up with like 4 or 5 more. I don't have any nicknames, so I don't.
I'll come up with a few more nicknames, and eventually I'll start listing them in my writing and start making Rich get really irritated.
There you go. But yes, of course, we're back here on Omakase for another episode here on the free feed. We'll be covering the New Japan Cup Finals, along with the All Japan March 21st show from Kyoto and the Noah March 21st show from Korakuen Hall. So kind of a packed show this week.
Lots of wrestling.
Lots of wrestling. Almost none of it that good. It was like one match. There was one match across these 3 shows that I really liked. So even beyond the obvious negative thing we're going to have to talk about shortly, this is going to be probably one of our more negative episodes. Because, there was not a lot of great wrestling.
There was
on these 3 shows.
Yeah. I think I've watched like between 8 and 9 hours of wrestling a day, and most of it's like, what? It's like if I wasn't watching a podcast, being on a podcast, I would have turned this off.
Yeah, a lot of perfectly fine matches, like a lot of
this happened.
A lot of 3 stars and 2 3/4.
Yes.
But yes, what are you gonna do? There's they all can't be winners, I guess. Some weeks will be great, and some weeks won't be. But other than crappy wrestling or just average wrestling, how has your week been, Jeri? Anything special?
Well, yeah. Just to get a little personal, today is my 7 months on HRT.
Ooh.
Which I mark every month because it's kind of a big deal. So, other than wrestling world, things are going good. I'm just really tired because my day had an early start because wrestling.
Yeah, we had to watch so many shows in the last 24 hours.
Yeah, I watched so many shows, and then I went out and just celebrated my, had an outdoor lunch because outdoors is the way to eat right now. So
yeah,
did that for my 7th-month HRT anniversary. So it was a nice day, but then eventually I sit down and it's like, oh gosh,
it's a lot of wrestling. Yeah.
Yes.
I watched the Noah show live last night, which helped, but then I also slept way too late today, so I didn't get through everything as fast as I wanted to, but what are you going to do? And also, all the, the craziness around the New Japan finish, I guess, was also kind of a delaying factor, which we'll get to very shortly, but I figured we could talk about some happy stuff first. I went to a hockey game. That was crazy.
Okay.
That was crazy. That was my first hockey game in 3 years. So even even before the pandemic, but, as a fully vaccinated human, that was the kind of thing I felt comfortable doing finally. And they just had reopened MSG to the capacity is 2,000, so it's in an 18,000 seat building, it's nothing. So you basically have your whole own row to yourself, me and my friend, and yeah, it was it was an interesting experience being in a mostly empty Madison Square Garden while the New York Rangers scored 9 goals, which, if you're not a hockey fan, not just you, but the listeners, 9 goals is a lot of goals. Usually it's like 3-2 is the average final score.
Yeah. It's because hockey's kind of like soccer, which is one of my sports, is you don't get a lot of points.
Yeah.
You're just happy with the ones you get.
So 9 goals is a lot of goals. They scored 7 goals.
A lot of goals.
They scored 7 goals just in the second period alone, which is
good grief.
Yeah, it was really crazy. It's just like because they had when you score a goal in hockey, there's like a goal horn and a goal song. Everybody stands up, so it was just like playing musical chairs. It's like sit down, stand up, sit down, stand up, because every 2 seconds, there would be another goal, and it was like getting really funny by the end of it. We were just like openly laughing at every Ranger goal. But yeah, the Philadelphia Flyers did not remember how to play defense on that evening. There were a couple really funny goals where there's like 4 Flyers standing all directly in front of the net, I guess having a tea party. I don't know what they were doing because they sure weren't defending. But it was a very, very interesting game to be at for sure. So both for COVID reasons, just the weirdness of being at a 2,000 person hockey game, and then also just because they scored 9 goals. So
right. But I'm glad you got to go to a hockey game though.
Yeah. I mean, the last game I had gone to, so people don't know, my 2 teams are the LA Kings and New York Rangers. The Kings I put as my number 1, and then the Rangers like kind of the hometown team. And, the last game I had gone to was actually the weekend of Strong Style Evolved, I think it was called. It was the March 2018 New Japan show in the Walter Pyramid that had like Young Bucks against Kenny and Ibushi. So I flew out.
Yes.
So I flew out to LA for that. And then after the show, the Kings happened to be playing the same weekend, so I just stayed an extra day and went and saw the Kings. I don't even remember who they were playing though, so the game must not have made a big impression. But yeah, that was my last hockey game before this, so it's been a while. The Rangers tickets are usually like really expensive too, which is another reason I guess. Like if the tickets weren't so fucking expensive, I would for sure go to more games because I watch hockey on TV pretty regularly. But
right.
But yeah, even during this pandemic, I think they dropped the prices and still like $80 for the 400 level. So it's like, okay, thanks for that big price cut, guys. But it's like it was just cool to go to something, after all this fucking time. But yeah, that was pretty much my week, and I had to get tested for COVID to go to the game, which was interesting. But interesting, maybe not the right word, but I had never gotten a COVID test before this, even though, I'm pretty much positive I had it last March, because when I had COVID-19, it was like, when all of New York City was like melting down with it, basically. Mm-hmm. And, they I remember I had like a telehealth appointment, and I remember the doctor saying like, oh, you sound like you have it, the symptoms all match, because I had the loss of taste and smell, like on top of all the flu symptoms and stuff. But she's like, we don't just, if you're not like suffering, like at the time they were basically saying, like that's what she said. Like if you're not suffering like, severe symptoms, like if you're not having trouble breathing, then they just want you to stay home because they just didn't have the capacity. Like they didn't have testing centers set up yet. They didn't want you to go to the hospital unless you really had to because the hospitals were overflowing. So yeah.
Right. I remember that time.
Yeah. So I never got the COVID test at the time. But so this was my first time getting a COVID test, and they sure stick that thing up your nose pretty far. That's all.
Yeah, they make sure it gets right up there.
Oh, you've had one too?
Yeah, I got one back in like summer last year because I kind of did a lead by example thing just to show people, hey, it's not that bad.
Yeah.
And it's not that bad. It's just odd.
Yeah, it feels really weird. Is the case. So. But yeah, that was my week. I got a COVID test on Sunday because I had to be within 72 hours, and then I went to a hockey game on Wednesday, which was happened to be St. Patrick's Day, so there were a lot of people out that day. Like that was the most normal that Manhattan has looked probably since this all started. Which you can say maybe it was a little too early for it to be that normal looking, but it was interesting for sure.
Right.
So the only thing I wanted to note before we get into the shows, and I'll plug the Patreon first probably. So I mentioned last week in the show notes that we've been having some audio issues lately. I'm sure it's obvious here on the free feed if you've been listening. Like an audio sync issue. I think I solved it. I'm pretty sure, like, when we tested it before we recorded, the sync was fine. There was like a hardware issue basically with my new laptop, I think was what was causing it when I turned off this one feature, and it seems like that fixed it. The one thing I'm worried about, I guess, is if the sync will, like, you know, come off sync later in the episode. So I will definitely check later in the episode for that. But I wanted to apologize to everybody listening, even though I know this podcast is free. You know, that we've had that audio sync problem. I don't think it's been unlistenable when I listen back, but it's just not ideal because it always sounds like I'm speaking over my guests, like, last, like, few words every time, which I'm not usually doing. So, like, it's just really, like, you know, it's just annoying to listen back to when I go back and listen. But, yeah, it took me a little while to catch it because I don't always listen to every episode. But, you know, I just felt really bad. So if you've been listening and, you know, putting up with that, thank you. Someone said they wanted to say something, but they didn't want to offend me. I'm like, no, if something's going wrong in the episode, please just tell me. It's okay. You don't have to, like, spare my feelings or anything. I really want the show to sound better, and I want the show to sound good, you know? And it's like, it drove me completely fucking crazy when I was trying to figure out what the problem was and trying all these fixes that weren't working until I finally seemed to have found one that may have worked. But, you know, I want to fix it. So if this doesn't work, if it once again comes out of sync, there's like another program I can try that I looked into. But, you know, I think this did fix it. This at least fixed it on when I tested it beforehand with my girlfriend Nicole, and then you and I tested it beforehand, and the sync sounded fine. So hopefully if it doesn't, like, drift out of sync as the show goes along here, you know, it'll work. If not, I'm gonna, like, take this OBS program and, like, I'm gonna hunt down the people who made it and just, like, write them a strongly worded letter. I don't know. Just, like, it was really infuriating trying to figure out what the problem was with this thing that I've been using for over a year that worked fine and just suddenly didn't work anymore. But yeah, I think it actually is a hardware issue with my new laptop that I think I fixed. So here's hoping. Fingers crossed.
Yep. Keep fingers crossed, and I guess we'll see.
Yeah, exactly. Like, last week I know was the worst when, like, one of the fixes I thought had fixed it instead, like, made it worse. So, you know, where, like, we actually lost TJ's audio for a couple little segments. So hopefully that does not happen again. But, you know, it seems like this latest fix worked. So here's hoping. In the meantime, before we get into our first review, of course, I want to plug the Wrestling Omakase Patreon. So if you haven't been keeping up with it, we've been doing daily audio coverage of every New Japan Cup show, you know, all the ones that weren't covered here on the free feed. And, you know, a lot of these, like, you know, like, I'm going to bury some stuff today, especially an Angle, but also really I wasn't into the final match that much either. But, like, you know, up until the semifinals, which I also did not like, which I talked about on the Patreon, this is a pretty goddamn great tournament. I mean, there's a lot of really good matches in this tournament, and you can hear me break them all down on the Patreon. So again, daily audio episodes. If you want to go back through the entire, you know, daily, you know, every show of the New Japan Cup and hear what I thought of each and every one, you can go ahead and do that. And, you know, we got more stuff coming up too, though. We have daily coverage of the All Japan Champion Carnival next month, so that'll be a lot of fun. Next week, we have a special Omakase, you know, Patreon exclusive episode. We do 2 full-length exclusive episodes every month, and it'll be the only Omakase next weekend because we'll be taking a week off on the free feed. And that'll be me and my buddy Quinlan doing a WrestleMania Retro Roulette. So basically 6 random matches from the entire history of WrestleMania. We could get anything, folks. We could get...
May the odds be in your favor.
I mean, we could get, like, terrible shit. We could get classic shit. Who the fuck knows, you know? I mean, we might get, I hope we get, like, the gimmick battle royal from WrestleMania 17 or something. Like, something really stupid, but at least fun stupid. Like, I hope they don't give us, like, I don't know, that endless Triple H versus Randy Orton Mania main event or something, like...
Oh, God, yeah, 25.
Yeah, something boring and terrible. Like, if you're going to give us something bad, at least give me something fun bad. So we'll see. The randomizer will decide, you know...
Triple H versus Roman Reigns.
Yeah.
You could end up with that.
Yeah, there's a lot of boring bad shit we could end up with, but we'll see. Obviously, there are many WrestleManias, so we'll pick 6 random shows, and then from each show we'll pick a random match. And that'll be like our goodbye to the WWE Network, since obviously that is going away at the end of the month.
Yes.
But yes, that'll be our episode next week. Again, exclusive to the Patreon. So if you want to hear that episode, you need to sign up. It's only $5. I think it's obviously a great deal. You get so much audio content on there. And we'll be doing more one-match episodes towards the end of the month. I'm going to take a few days off here because I feel like I've been recording audio like every goddamn day for like 2.5 weeks. But
the New Japan Cup grind is real.
Yeah, it's something. And then so we will take a few days off, but then the one-match episodes with these patron submitted matches will resume. There's still some cool stuff in there to get to. And then, like I said, we'll be doing daily coverage of the Champion Carnival before too long. So lots of cool stuff coming up. That and lots of cool stuff to already listen to in the archive, like I said, including all the New Japan Cup shows. Plus, with the Tokyo Dome coming up again in May, we did a whole lot of Tokyo Dome one-match episodes with the history of Tokyo Dome main events. So you can definitely check that out too. So that's all at patreon.com/Wrestling Omakase. Again, patreon.com/Wrestling Omakase. Only $5, and you get all of our bonus audio content. Okay, so the stuff we're here to talk about today, we're going to start off with the New Japan Cup Finals, Sunday, March 21st from Sendai. Look, the thing we have to start with, I think, is that post-match angle with Will Ospreay after he, of course, beat Shingo Takagi to win the New Japan Cup. He hits B. Priestley with this cutter and, this ace crusher, whatever you want to call it. Just a really cringeworthy, terrible angle on so many levels. It's the kind of thing where, like, I know I have to talk about it, but, like, I've already said a lot about it on Twitter today. I've read many other people.
Everyone has.
Yes, I was going to say, I've read many other people, make a lot of great points, and it feels like almost like I don't have anything left to say about this, but I know for the many people who are listening to this who don't follow me on Twitter, you want to hear, you probably want to hear what I think of this, but I think you can probably guess what I think of this. First of all, I mean, the idea is supposed to be, he had said something like what? Like, I love the idea of being IWGP World Heavyweight Champion and being recognized as the best more than anything or anyone. And then he turns and looks at B, and then he gives her this fucking cutter. I almost don't know where to start with this. It's a bad idea in general to do a simulated domestic violence angle when, like, domestic violence is spiking pretty much worldwide during the current pandemic. And, it is in Japan, and it's a big story in Japan, from what I understand. If from, like, reading stuff on, English language, Japanese news sites and stuff, I mean, there have been stories about this, very recently. And, this is just, so it feels ill-timed, first of all. I don't know if I want to see this angle at any time with anyone. Like, I'm not really willing to, so I saw there was a lot of debate about it. To me, it's almost besides the point, because at this time with this person, you definitely shouldn't do it. But do I really want to see this type of angle in New Japan at all? Not really. I mean, if I'm being honest, I don't feel as strongly about that. Like, when I saw people having that debate, it really didn't feel like the right debate to me, so I didn't really get involved. But no, I don't really want to see that angle anyway. And no, I don't think it's the same thing as intergender wrestling when, yes, B is a wrestler, I understand that. But she's not in a match with Will Ospreay. She did a match with Will Ospreay. You can go watch them wrestle each other if you want. I have no problem with that. But in New Japan, she is Will Ospreay's girlfriend. That is her position. In this very match, Will Ospreay uses her as a human shield because you're not supposed to hit her is the thing. The other wrestlers don't want to hit her. So they don't go after Will while she gets to their way, precisely because they know it's off limits to hit this woman, in New Japan. So whatever else you think about, intergender wrestling or, should there be man-on-woman wrestling, like, it's clear that it's off limits in the context of New Japan. And Will is not in a match with her. She is not being presented as an equal wrestler, going up against Will Ospreay. She's being presented as Will Ospreay's girlfriend, who he just gave this wrestling move to and laid out to make some stupid point about how he'd rather be world champion than be in a relationship with her, and it made clear afterwards that he dumped her via this. So yes, if you're dumping a woman by attacking her, you're doing a simulated domestic violence angle. That is what you're doing, whether she's a wrestler or not. And then on top of all of that, why on earth would you choose to do this angle with this man of all people? Will Ospreay is already a controversial topic in wrestling because of how he, I really didn't want to get into this again. But yes, he likely mistreated a rape victim and, blackballed her, whatever you want to call it. At the very least, you can easily prove, just look at the fucking tweets, that he publicly shamed her and, publicly called her out and called her a liar and did everything in his considerable power to ostracize this woman who, again, was accusing his best friend of rape. So there's a lot of people that don't like Will Ospreay anyway, and, this is just... he already has a very bad history, with at least one woman, and there's been... I don't really want to get into anything else. At least one woman. There's a very bad story here with him and her, and that's the fucking wrestler you book to do this? Like, it just doesn't make any... Like, of all fucking people, he is quite literally the last wrestler on the roster who should be in this angle. Maybe he and Hama are tied. That's it. Nobody else... Like, if you absolutely have to book an angle with a wrestler physically putting their hands on their girlfriend, like, Will Ospreay should be at the bottom of the list for who you need to book that in that angle. Because it's just completely... It is so tone deaf, you almost need a new term for tone deaf. Like, tone deaf doesn't quite cover it. So, I want to get you in here, Jerry. Like, what do you... I don't want to just be doing a monologue here.
No, you got to get it out of your system. It was a slow simmer anger for me because I really liked the main event. I really did. So I was on this main event high, and then the Oz cutter happens, and it sort of just catches me off guard. Like, that excellent match high you get, just negate it instantly.
Yeah.
As I'm trying to figure out what the frick just happened, and it wasn't until I started thinking, like, what the... Forgive the cursing here, but what the fuck?
Oh, you can curse on this show all you want, believe me.
Yeah, you do that angle with this guy, and not just this guy, but the timing. We're still within a year of the speaking out movement. We already know Will constantly has a target on him. He's just going to paint a fresh coat of paint, bullseye on the back of his head.
Yeah.
And also, this comes weeks after they try to put Scarl back in, through the back door.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels blatant. It's like they know this is going to get a reaction, so this is the route they go.
Yeah, and that's where
I don't think they realized what reaction they were about to get, but they knew it was going to get a reaction.
That's where I would love to know, was this Will's idea or was this New Japan's idea? Because I don't think that's been reported anywhere.
I don't know. I don't know right now because it hasn't been reported, but whoever's idea it was, someone should have said, let's not put this on ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to steal Joe Lanza's scoop too much because he put it on his Voice Wrestling Patreon, so definitely go check that out for all the details. But Joe made clear like 3 things: the New Japan office knew about it, the other Empire members knew about it, and Ibushi was told like at the announce table apparently, and yeah, and the New Japan wrestlers, some of the New Japan wrestlers backstage who did not know about it were very angry. So he has a lot more details than that on the Voice of Wrestling Patreon. But, like, I really want to know, did Will pitch this to them and they okayed it? Or did they pitch it to Will and Will okayed it? Because those are 2 different scenarios to me on multiple levels. But, like, either way, somebody should have said no, is the point.
Someone should have said no, And, like you said, if they had to do this angle, which, spoiler, they never will have to do this angle. But if they had to do it, Will Ospreay is not the guy you go with attacking his girlfriend to prove a point of how much he wants the world title. You could have still done the angle without the attack. He could have just dumped her. Said, I'm focusing on the title now. Thank you for your interference.
Yeah, he could have and that still would have been a total heel move because she, as we'll talk about in a second, she helps him in this match about as much as she has in any match so far. And if he had turned to her and said, yeah, B, I want this title more than I want you. See you later. Hit the bricks or whatever the fuck. Without giving her a cutter, that would have been a total heel move still.
And then it would have been amazing. Then he loses without her. Yeah. you know that could have totally worked. But no, they go for this cutter. And there was just so much confusion everywhere.
Yeah, the English announcers. I listened to the Japanese, but I heard the clip of the English announcers, and they had no idea this was coming because the announcers never get told anything. I'm not saying that as a critique or anything. It's just it's just how it is.
It's how it is.
Yeah, and they had no idea how to react to it. They had no idea what was going on. It was just Gino Gambino going what repeatedly. Yes. The Japanese announcers really had no clue either. Like from what I understand, Milano had to explain it to them. Like he did his best to explain what was going on. But yeah, I just because obviously on top of everything else, they don't speak English, which Milano does, and Milano kind of translated for them and was like, well, he said, he wants the belt more than her or something, but they didn't seem to get it either, and I don't really, and the crowd, I understand that it's a clap crowd and they can't react, but like the clap crowds have made audible reactions to angles and matches. We've all seen it by now.
Right.
I mean, when a big moment happens, they gasp, they make like these audible reactions when it's like a big moment they're into. This was dead fucking silence. Like almost eerie levels of silence.
Complete silence.
Yeah, because they had no idea what they were watching. They had no idea why this was happening, and it just didn't land with anybody.
And I find the intergender comparisons to be such bad faith.
I do too.
Bad faith, and to a certain degree, it's like, are you just stretching to find excuses for why it's okay to hit her?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's really uncomfortable. It's a really uncomfortable line of stretching and trying to find reason for this angle. And yes, I get as a wrestling angle, but as a wrestling angle, it fucking sucks. With the connotations of everything that's gone on, it freaking sucks. And the fact that nobody seems to have said, maybe we shouldn't do this, all effing sucks. And it puts they had earned back some goodwill with this tournament.
Yeah.
And in just a blink of the eye, they just washed it away.
Yeah. I mean, what you said about the goodwill, it's like most of this tournament has been as well received as anything New Japan's done this year. I mean, I went over it, like there's a lot of really cool matches in this tournament. I mean, it's really kind of besides the point of star ratings, but I mean, I have a ton of matches in this tournament that I really liked, and, we'll go through my top 10 later when we have a better transition. But yeah, there's a lot of really cool matches in this tournament, but like, people were into it. There was like more clean finishes and, it was a very different vibe to compare.
Wrestlers were motivated.
Yeah, the wrestlers looked motivated.
We got some good performances from people we haven't gotten good performances from in a while.
Yeah.
It was going good, and now we're not talking about the tournament at all.
Yeah, I mean, that's where I don't get whoever's idea it was, like, the reason why this was such a bad idea, even beyond the moral aspect of it, which I'm not at all trying to downplay because, I just ranted about it for all that time, but even beyond the moral aspect of it being the wrong thing to do, just from a pure New Japan, what you're trying to do standpoint, this was fucking stupid because all it did was overshadow a match that most people liked a lot more than I did, as we'll get into. A match that a lot of people loved, and the finals of a tournament that a lot of people loved, and instead of hype being like, oh, what a great tournament we had, what a great finals we had. Now we have Kota Ibushi versus Will Ospreay, the first IWGP World Heavyweight Title match. Get excited for that. It's coming up in a few short weeks. Instead of all of that, we're talking about this. This angle did not do anything positive for New Japan Pro Wrestling. It overshadowed your tournament. It overshadowed your finals. It overshadowed your upcoming title match. And all that's left is a focus and a glare on New Japan doing the wrong thing at the wrong time with the wrong person. And again, like you mentioned this, I'm glad you brought it up. I totally forgot about it. Coming just off the heels of that Marty Scurll shit. I mean, it doesn't help that this company just looks more goddamn tone deaf by the day. So...
And on a personal level, it sucks because I really fucking like this company.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I know that should not come into play, but because you really shouldn't put anything on the pedestal. But this is my promotion. The one I've invested the time and money, and I'm investing thousands of dollars to go see in January.
Hopefully,
and it upsets me that I have this feeling about him right now. Over 10 seconds that never needed to exist.
Yeah, it's really frustrating. I mean,
it's really frustrating, and I don't have good answers, and I both don't know how they get out of this, and I kind of, because I hate the angle so much, I kind of don't care how they get out of it.
Yeah, I mean,
just if you have to apologize, drop it, which they're not going to do. I'm not going to be unrealistic here, and just move on, do it, but you got yourselves in this mess, figure it out. You're the adults in the room, allegedly.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I think we pretty much covered it, but I get, just a really bad angle, really badly timed, really the exact wrong person. And I just, I don't have much else to say about it, I guess. Do you have anything else you want to add before we...
I think that was slightly therapeutic, honestly.
It did feel good to get some of it out.
I did a bad job this morning trying to get my thoughts out on Twitter, but I think I got him out as best I could.
Yeah, it's just a shitty position to be put in as fans, I mean,
yes.
we don't want to be on here ranting about how much we hate this shit. I mean, you just said it. It's one of my favorite companies too. And it is a company that I also spend a lot of money on to go to all sorts of shows over the years, and probably going to do it again this year, or the end of the year, I should say. And yeah, it's just a really, I don't want to be on here ranting about how much I hate them, but I have to be fair. I mean, it's a really terrible angle, and I don't know why they decided to do that. And and by the way, this is a slightly different topic, but the people, if you're online saying, "Whoa, well, Japan is very different and it's a different culture," and you don't get it. It's like, first of all, you don't have to Japan explain to me, bro. I've read I know plenty about Japan, but second of all, do you understand how not you, obviously, this theoretical person, do you understand how reductive it is to talk about an entire country as if they're a fucking monolith on any subject? It's yes, Japanese culture and American culture are different, but you can go on Twitter and find plenty of fucking Japanese fans who are burying the shit out of this angle, some for similar reasons as English Twitter has been doing it, or Western Twitter, but sometimes some of them just don't want to see this in New Japan. There's a lot of tweets like that I saw of Japanese fans just saying, "I don't want this in my New Japan." And they're just as valid as anybody else. Yes, there are Japanese fans who are fine with this angle, who are, replying to Will Ospreay on Instagram or whatever the fuck. But there's Western fans who are fine with this angle too. Go look at the fucking Super J-Cast Twitter and the replies they got from people who are, all pissed off that they dared not to like this angle. So it's just, no one's a monolith. Western Twitter is not a monolith. Japanese Twitter is not a monolith. People are going to like it, and people are going to dislike it. You don't have to go on Twitter and say, "Oh, well, this angle's fine because the Japanese fans are fine with it." It's the fans in the building didn't seem like they loved it either, honestly, as we just went over. And there's plenty of people on Twitter, there's plenty of Japanese fans on Twitter who clearly didn't like it. So just, if you're not finding them, then you're not looking, because it's very easy to find them.
Yeah, and one just final thing, just to wrap things up. Also, don't go on Twitter and tell certain people, especially women who have found themselves in this position in their lives, how they should feel about this angle.
Yeah.
It's fucking disgusting, and it serves no purpose other than to belittle how they legitimately feel and think.
Yeah, it's just really...
Don't do it.
It's just really stupid. And, there's, of course, this whole thing has brought out a lot of, very stupid discourse, which, I kind of knew it would. As for the match itself, which I did not watch live, I was spoiled on it because actually, when I talked about that Voices of Wrestling Patreon report, that's what spoiled me. I woke up half asleep and saw, because I get their Patreon post sent to me as email, and I woke up half asleep. I checked their email, and I checked my email. And I see this message from them that says about the post match angle at New Japan Cup final, and the first line of the email's in my little screen on my phone. And it says after beating Shingo Takagi to win the New Japan Cup, And I was like, what the fuck? Why would they put that out there as a Patreon post and spoil everybody when the show just happened? But then when I kept reading, I was like, oh, because this is pretty, what's the word? Like a pretty, like, you know, a pretty rare circumstance, I guess. Or a pretty, you know, pretty outrageous circumstance where you understand why they did it. But yeah, so I got spoiled on the match by that. And I got spoiled that there was some kind of horrible angle. And then, you know, I kind of like was reading the discourse, I guess, before I even saw... I saw the clip of the angle, but I hadn't seen the match yet. So I wanted to say all that because, first of all, you know, I'm watching this match spoiled. I'm watching it both spoiled and with already a negative feeling because of how this shitty angle.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that hurt my opinion of it because I am a lot lower on this match than the consensus appears to be. You know, like I think it has like something like a 4.5 average on Grapple. Let me see what it is actually right now, up to the minute.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, as of now, it is if it ever loads, it's a 4.56 average on Grapple. But yes, Will Ospreay defeats Shingo Takagi in 30:06 with the Stormbreaker. Look, I didn't hate this match, even with all those, caveats. I didn't love it either, though. I went 3.5 stars on it. I thought it was good. But, like, there's a few spots in here that I really hated. And, you know, I'll get through them as we go through it here. You know, some of the spots are not quite their fault. Some of it just feels like it's been building this entire New Japan Cup and, like, you know, in New Japan lately as far as, like, the cliches and stuff, which I'll get into. Like, the first thing first. It starts out with a big... You know, tees will hit each other with our finishers right at the start sequence. I am so fucking sick of that sequence. And I'll tell you why. Nobody ever actually hits their finisher during one of these. So you know it's not actually leading anywhere. So, like, until somebody actually hits their fucking finisher a minute and a half or 2 minutes into a match, you know, whether they don't have to win with it. The guy can kick out because it's a minute and a half or 2 minutes into a match. But, like, for these sequences to mean anything, I need someone to actually hit their finisher this early. And they do these sequences fairly often now. You know, not in every match or anything, but like, you know, in these big matches, they do them fairly often, these teasing finishers right at the start sequences. And I'm really sick of them because nobody ever actually hits their fucking finisher during these sequences. So it just ends up coming off like, you know, time wasting kind of like, you know, pap. I don't know, like just total, you know, bullshit. Then we get Ospreay tossing Shingo into the railing repeatedly on the outside. Now, if you've been listening to me on the Patreon, patreon.com/Wrestling Omakase, the railing spots in New Japan are so beyond overdone. It would not surprise me if it was featured in literally every single New Japan Cup tournament match. And if it wasn't, it was damn close. Like, every single tournament match, someone went into the railing. And I don't know, like, they really got to do, like, a singles match where nobody goes into the railing on the outside, because I'm so sick of it. You know, Shingo did do a good job selling with his pre-existing back injury. He came in with his back all taped up, you know, selling from the match with Evil yesterday, which I guess would have been the first clue he was losing here, if I hadn't been spoiled on it already. But yeah, so Shingo did a good job selling, you know, especially when Ospreay hit a backdrop suplex on him across the railing. And, you know, and there was also a cute little spot where Shingo got up in front of Ibushi. You know, he's kind of grinning at him and, like, patting him on the shoulder. That was a cool little moment. But, yeah, and then B. Priestley gets involved in the match. Again, I'm already spoiled on the post-match, so I'm thinking, well, I guess this won't be a big thing going forward. But she grabs Shingo from behind, distracts him long enough for Ospreay to run him into the post. And, you know, I ranted on this again on the Patreon yesterday after the Finlay match where she got involved briefly. But, like, we already have, like, 50 interfering managers in New Japan, it feels like, and we don't need another one. I guess it's kind of a moot point now unless, you know, she's going to come back and turn on Ibushi in some kind of swerve, which, given that she made a big deal out of following Ibushi on Instagram when he carried her out and stuff, it wouldn't surprise me if that's where they're going with that. But anyway. And this leads, you know, to a kind of silly spot where Shingo goes to whip Ospreay into the railing. Ospreay, like, somehow starts, like, trotting almost instead of running and does this, like, little leap over the railing, but, like, at such a slow speed it looks stupid instead of looking cool. Like, just a tiny little jump. And then Shingo, so there's a table set up. He starts yelling on the table in English for some reason. That was kind of funny. And he tries to Death Valley Driver Ospreay off the apron through the table. But B gets involved again and pulls the table away and then stands in front of Ospreay so Shingo can't dive at him. Now, at least she didn't, she interfered only, I guess you would say, twice or three times. It's not as much as Dick Togo interferes in evil matches, fine. But this still felt like to me, like I was watching Revolution again. Watching that AEW pay-per-view, where it's like some wrestlers are allowed to have interference in their matches and some aren't. It is the most inconsistent thing that people complain about in wrestling today. This is even in the same company. People can't even, I saw people try to use the excuse during the AEW thing that, I can like interference in one company but not the other. Fine. This is now the same fucking company as the evil stuff that people complain about endlessly, and the Jay White stuff, and whatever else, and Jado with GOD, all the other fucking run-ins. This is the same company, and people somehow don't seem to have a problem with B getting involved here, and have no pause at giving this match, 4.5 stars, 4 3/4, 5 stars, match of the year. Where it's like other times in the same fucking company, if there's any interference in the match, people are immediately taking like a star off and, not willing to give it any kind of rating. So again, interference right now in wrestling, and this is going to be my whole point here, is the most inconsistently applied critique out there. If you like the wrestler, you're willing to look the other way on interference. If you don't like the wrestler, you're not willing to look the other way. And I guess you could say it's like that for a lot of stuff in pro wrestling, and I get it, but this one just drives me insane because of just how vociferously people argued that the evil interference was like killing New Japan. And here you have Will Ospreay, Will Ospreay's girlfriend getting involved in the middle of this main event in the New Japan Cup Finals, and no one seems to give a shit. Just like you had people getting involved all pay-per-view long, 7 out of 8 matches of Revolution, and nobody seemed to give a shit. And it's like, again, if people had just said, I don't like evil, that's fine. Instead of making it some crusade against interference, it would be way more tolerable now to watch a match with like 3 interference spots here get the kind of hyper praise it's been getting. So that's my little interference rant. Anything you want to touch on before I keep going here?
Well, I was going to try to interfere just to piss you off.
I'm not the one who cares about interference. I
know, but I just thought it'd be funny if I just interfered. It's like, oh, great, now we're getting interference on podcast. Is there anything it doesn't touch? I mean, I'll admit, and I've always openly admit when it comes to wrestling, I'm a hypocrite. Because sometimes it does depend on the wrestler. Sometimes it depends on the match, too. And some wrestlers, I think, are great enough that they can have a lot of interference and still put together a great match. And some just, if that's all they can depend on for the match to go on, then it's a different thing to me. Will Ospreay and Shingo are great enough wrestlers that they can have interference and still put together a great match. Evil can have good matches with interference, but then they start bringing out the garrots and they start taking off the turnbuckles, and it just becomes too much of a muddle.
Yeah, no, it's fair. I mean, the one that I always point to that will annoy me until the day I die was that Evil Naito match from Power Struggle last year, because I legitimately think that was an amazing fucking match for most of it, between the interference spots. But if you listen to people critique the match, all they talk about is the interference spots, and it's like,
Power Struggle. Remind me which one was that?
That was the last one. Where like
that was the best one.
That was. I mean, most people do seem to agree it was the best one, but like, all the critique you heard about was just the interference, and it's like, if you're not gonna, if you're gonna hyper focus on it, even when they're having a great match in between, like that's where I start to get really annoyed.
Fair. I respect that. I understand what you're saying, and I do think with some wrestlers, like especially Evil, and I'll call myself out on this, with Evil, I think we've gotten so, what's the word I'm looking for, annoyed by it, that now that we just automatically assume that's what we're going to get, so we're already predetermined to dislike it before it even happens. Because we're already in that mindset, well, here comes an Evil match.
Right. No,
here comes Dick Togo, here comes, chairs, here comes the ref grabbing the leg. which is one of my least favorite spots, by the way.
That.
I'm already in the pre-mindset. I'm going to get all this stuff, so I'm already probably in the pre-mindset that I'm just not going to enjoy this.
That's fair.
But I'm not trying to dismiss what you're saying, because you're right. There is a hypocritical level, and I think even though some fans will try to say that they don't have it, we all have it, because we all have our faves and dislikes, and we will always be preferring to criticize the people we dislike over certain things over the people we do like. Especially when it comes to things like comedy or interference or even certain moves.
Yeah,
sure.
So
that's how it is.
Shingo, one thing though, and Shingo's a guy I usually love, but he's doing some really like corny selling, like much more corny than he usually does, like around the 20-minute mark. I guess he was trying to sell that he was stunned or something, even while he was making a comeback, but it just didn't look good to me at all. He was like shaking his head around a lot and making these like pretty ridiculous faces. So that stood out to me in a bad way. And then came the spot that I thought, basically killed any chance of me going 4 stars of this match. So, okay. Ospreay takes a pumping bomber. Okay. He does the flip. He takes the pumping bomber full force to the face. I have to make that clear, because some people seem to be confused about what the spot is versus his normal spot. So he takes his pumping bomber full force to the face, does a flip, like he's going to do a flip cell, which would have been fine. Flip cells are great. But instead of landing, on his belly or his back or whatever, he lands back on his feet, is completely fine, and then hits an Oz cutter. That's fucking stupid as hell, I should say. It's one thing to take a lariat, hit the mat, and get right back up and no-sell it. But to basically flip right through it like that after the impact makes the entire thing look stupid, makes the entire thing look fake, which, just rubs your fucking face in how fake it is. Like, it doesn't make any sense you would take a lariat full force to the face, flip and land back on your feet, and be completely fine. It just doesn't make any sense. When a wrestler takes a lariat and, stumbles back up to their feet, that makes sense. They're running on adrenaline. They took this move. They get right back up. You're not even selling the impact of the move at this point. There was no point in taking this lariat except because you thought it looked cool for you to flip out of it. It doesn't look cool. It looks fucking dumb as hell. And I saw a lot of people on Twitter and elsewhere basically arguing, oh, that's just a counter of the lariat. He does that all the time. No, that's not what he does all the time. Usually, he flips to avoid the lariat and turns into, that one-man Spanish fly he does, or sometimes he flips over and goes for the Stormbreaker. That's fine. That's just a counter. Here, he is getting hit by the move, doing a fucking flip, no-selling it, landing on his feet, and then immediately hitting his Oz cutter. That did not look cool, at least not to me. That looked stupid as hell. I'm assuming you thought that spot was cool if you want to try to defend it, but most people seem to think it was cool. I thought it was fucking stupid.
I really don't have a good defense, but I did fucking love it. I'm not gonna lie. And I think I love it just because it came out and because the match was just flowing to me, and then when it just happened, it just happened, and it's just like, what the fuck just happened? I don't think I never had time to process it in the way you processed it. I mean, and I'm not trying to, I'm not, saying that in a negative way towards you. I'm just saying it happened and I just went with the flow. I never sat back to think, did that fucking make sense? And there's some things, don't get me wrong, there are some things in wrestling I would think, did that make sense? But I was enjoying that match so much, I just went with it.
That's fair.
I get what you're saying, though. I think this is going to be one of the things that it's going to be like years ago when we had the Will Ospreay Ricochet opening.
Yeah, I hate
Acrobat. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There was a lot of people who were into it and loved it and wrote countless needless paragraphs for why it was good. And there were people like, no, this was trash. And I think this spot is about to be cemented there as well. There's going to be no middle ground with it.
I can't.
You either thought it was fucking boss or you thought it was the pure shits. And we can see where you lie.
Sure. So Ospreay does a 450 off the top rope through a table on the floor to Shingo. That was very cool. Give him credit for that. And then
it made me say oh shit to the point that I thought I was going to get a noise complaint.
And Shingo gets back up against the railing to beat the 20 count. Ibushi once again patting him to encourage him. He was right in front of him again. That was kind of cute. But then Ospreay immediately pounces and gets a shooting star press for a 2 count just before the 25-minute call. We get the big series of reversals and one-man Spanish flies you would expect before Ospreay puts him away the roaring elbow, 2 straight hidden blades, and finally the Stormbreaker for the pin. The finish was cool and definitive. I like that about it. Like, they didn't go on too long with the finisher reversals like you can sometimes see in New Japan. And, it was the kind of win that Ospreay should have, getting ready to headline, Sumo Hall. But, so I gave it like an extra quarter star for that. But I'm giving, I'm going 3.5 on it, like I said earlier. It just didn't click at a 4-star plus level for me. Definitely not like a match of the year candidate. And, any match that has what I think is the dumbest spot of the year, I'm not going to get super high marks from me. But yeah, like I said, as a caveat, I was spoiled. I already had a bad taste in my mouth from the angle. So, I'm sure if I had watched it live, I probably would have been a little higher on it. But, I doubt I would have given match of the year, contender or anything. But I thought it was a very disappointing ending to what had been a great tournament up until the semifinals. But, what are you going to do?
Well, I loved it, but I feel really weird now loving this match after everything has gone down. We just talked about minutes ago. It's like, kids, am I allowed to retroactively hate this match now? Like, no, I loved it. I wrote down 4.5. I wrote down in all caps, bold, underlined, tits cannot be calmed.
Yeah.
Which then underneath it, I said I was wrong.
Yeah, they were calmed. That's true.
Yeah, they were calmed by the Oz Cutter afterwards. But, no, I really liked this match. I love that it was 30 minutes, and I'd never felt 30 minutes.
I will say it did not drag. That is for sure.
It did not drag. I thought they kept a good pace. I really loved the things like with Shingo being encouraged by Ibushi. I hate that lured me into thinking Shingo was going to win this. It definitely did for me.
Well, okay, I watched it spoiled. I remember thinking as I watched it, I'm like, wow, if I had watched this unspoiled, I would have thought he was winning because of that. Like, but they.
Yeah, there was a moment where I really thought Shingo was going to win. There was this moment, I think it was at the 20-minute mark before this spot you hate it, where Ospreay is hitting Shingo, and Shingo's just slowly standing up and has that murder face.
Now, if Kota beats Ospreay, Shingo probably will be the next challenger anyway, because that's traditionally what they do. The New Japan Cup runner-up usually does get the Dontaku challenge, so they could still be teasing Shingo Ibushi even without, Yeah,
that's true, and I really want that match.
I think we will get that match, eventually. Whether if Ospreay wins, and then Ibushi has to win the belt back from him or something, which I think is very possible, then that'll take longer. But either way, I think we're going to get that match still.
Yeah. I don't fully disagree with you on the B interference. I just had to say why I thought it works and sometimes it doesn't. I'm really glad that all Okan and Cobb did was sit and watch, because I was really worried they were going to get involved because they were down there. But it didn't, so it's like, okay, it didn't go too overboard. So I thought it was a very great main event. I gave it 4.5, which seems to be the number going around. It's definitely not match of the year. It was definitely not better than several matches that would happen in this tournament to me. But I wasn't disappointed. I'm just very hesitant because it just feels weird hyping this match up now.
For sure.
It's not uncomfortable because I did like it, and there's no point in pretending I didn't like it, But at the same time, it's like I just can't. I'm not going to spend the time hyping this matchup that I otherwise would have.
That's fair. So I'm going to quickly give, since this, we'll go through the rest of the card really quickly. I mean, there's not much else to it. But before we do that, to wrap up the actual tournament, so this is my top 10 matches of the tournament, which I've been, again, most of these were covered on the Omakase Patreon. So if you want to hear my thoughts on all of them in long form, you can check that out. But the top 10 starts in 10th place with the quarterfinal, David Finlay versus Jay White from March 18th in Shizuoka. Gave that one 3 3/4. 9 through 5 are all 4 stars flat, so I don't have to keep repeating myself. 9th place, second round, Evil versus Jeff Cobb from March 11th in Ihame. I seem to be very alone on that one, but I love that match. I thought that was just like the best Evil match he's had in forever. He had a very not a very good tournament in my opinion. So this was like his big standout match. His other matches I really didn't like his Shingo match or the Yano match. So this was his big standout for me. 8th place, Will Ospreay versus Sonata from the quarterfinals. Again, also 318 in Shizuoka, or from the quarterfinals. 7th place, second round, Shingo versus Goto, March 13th in Nagoya. 6th place in the first round, Sonata versus Ishii from March 9th in Okayama. Fifth place in the quarterfinals, Shingo versus Kenta from March 16th in Korakuen Hall. Yeah, that was awesome. Fourth place, the match. I like this match a lot, but a lot of people seem to like it a lot more than I did. And I broke down why it wasn't a match of the year contender for me on the Patreon. Fourth place, second round, Will Ospreay versus Zack Sabre Jr., March 14th in Amagasaki. I gave that 4.25 stars. Third place, Goto versus Taichi from the first round, March 5th at Korakuen Hall, also 4.25. Second place, Great Okan versus Tetsuya Naito, March 4th at the Nippon Budokan, also 4.25. And first place, really led wire to wire, Shingo Takagi versus Kazuchika Okada, March 6th at the Oda Ward Gym, 4.5 stars. Definitely, to me, the standout of what was a very good tournament. I mean, yeah.
Yes. And I want to say that I am very happy to see Naito Okan ranked so highly on your list.
No one's surprised because it's Naito and Okan, who I love too.
Yeah,
but yeah, I love that match. Yeah. Naito's like.
Yeah, I loved it. I don't think I rated it that high. I think I gave it flat 4 when I wrote my review, but I loved it, and I would defend Okan to anyone.
Yeah, people are really have fun for sure. But yeah, so I have, a great tournament. If you haven't checked out some of the matches, like I said, 9 matches of 4 stars or better, and then another 5 matches of 3 3/4. Another, let me see how many here. Another 6, I think, at 3.5. I mean, the only matches I had below 3 stars were Yoshihashi versus Yujiro from the first round, Shingo versus Evil from the semifinals, Yano versus Okan from the second round, Evil versus Yano from the quarterfinals, and Yano versus Fale from the first round. So basically, if you didn't involve Toru Yano, it was probably pretty good.
I would say Yano had the opposite of the match of the year caliber tournament, which is not unsurprising. It's really rough for him
with these like clap crowds. So like 2.5 against Great Okan was like as best as he could do. But
right.
But yeah, there you go. That's my New Japan Cup wrap up. To wrap up the prediction. So I had said on the Patreon that I was surprised more people had picked Ospreay than Shingo because I thought Shingo was definitely winning. So, haha. I was doing really good in this fucking pick'em until, obviously I got the final wrong, and that's worth 12 fucking points. So that dropped me all the way from like tied for third to 19th because I got the final wrong. So there you go. That's where I finished. 25 people have picked Ospreay compared to 17 who picked Shingo. And then the remaining 16 people pick somebody else. So Chris Sampson wins the Omakase Pick'em. I think he won all the Pick'ems on Sport of Pro Wrestling when it's his site. So get your conspiracy theories going now, folks. He goes first place with 70 points. Bakor finishes second with 69 points. And if you happen to listen to this, buddy, I will give you the free month of Omakase Patreon. Even though I said first place only, but it just feels weird to me giving. I mean, I'll give Chris the prize too, but like it's his website, so it feels a little weird to me. It's like, how like, people who are members of blah 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 can't win. It's like, well, that should kind of feels like it should have been the case, I guess. But
I think next time Chris should not join at least one tournament, so everybody else has a chance.
I mean, I'm not saying Chris didn't have any inside info or anything. He just owned us all.
He just owned it all. With his statistical analysis, the bastard.
But yeah, so Bakor finishes second with 69 points. Sean Cedar from Voices of Wrestling finishes third with 68 points. Paul Wedding finishes fourth with 67 points. And then tied for fifth, Rika Tatsumi. Hopefully the actual wrestler. I know who it is. It's not her. But it's just kind of funny to see that name there. 65 points. And Yapiti Strap with 65 points as well, tied for fifth. Last place, of course, my buddy Aaron, 4 points. So he got 2 matches right in the first round, nothing after that. So way to go, Aaron. And then second to last place, Mavs Gillis, the young boy announcer, 14 points. So not very good at predicting, I guess. What are you gonna do? But there you go. That's your wrap up on the Pick'em. Had a lot of fun with it, so thank you if you entered. It definitely gave me extra stuff to talk about throughout all this New Japan Cup coverage. Okay, so let's get to the rest of the show very quickly because there's really not much of note on it. The semi-main event was Okada, Tanahashi, and Ibushi beating Jay White, Fale, and Owens. Ibushi pinning Chase in 11:31 with the Kamigoe. Is it just me or these Kamigoes like kind of looking more lame lately? I don't know. I shouldn't use that word. Looking like just not as cool. they don't look very cool lately. They look like much less impactful or something. Maybe guys told him to stop kneeing them in the head as hard as he could or something, but they just don't look as cool lately. I don't know.
Or maybe lately just because he's not in big time matches. He's just
I
not
noticed it.
pulling the
I
trigger.
feel like I've noticed it in like his Sonata defense and stuff too. But I don't know.
Okay, I'll have to go back and look at that because I
And like the
honestly don't
Desperado
know.
match. But yeah, I don't know. It feels like he's been hitting very weak coming goings lately.
And you never know. It could very well be a hey, can you lighten
please
up
stop
a bit?
kneeing us in the head. But yeah, it was just kind of just an interesting thing. There was one spot where Jay White and Tanahashi did like a million standing switches. It looked stupid as hell. I feel like that was supposed to look cool, but it went on for it felt like an eternity. It wasn't exciting, wasn't cool looking, and it ended with Jay just pulling his hair and then hitting a pretty mediocre DDT. So bad sequence.
Yeah, I didn't like it. Just stick to having your abs off, please.
But yeah, so this was 2.5 stars, very average match. Points off for that horrendous White Tana sequence. And then after the match, Tanahashi and White got in each other's faces. So in case anyone doubts, that is an upcoming Never title match. And then Ibushi went straight to the commentary table for the main event. And as usual, had no idea what to do with his 2 titles. So that's why he's unifying them.
Yeah, if you can't figure out what to do with 2 titles, making them one might just make it less confusing. And tick everyone off.
Match 4, LIJ, Naito, Sonata, and Bushi beat FinJuice with their terrible tag team music and Toa Hanare. Sonata, that music is so bad.
I thought that was their teammate from over here. They come with their terrible music.
Sonata pinned Hanare in 10-10 with the O'Connor Bridge. Something's got to be up with Hanare. He's getting pinned in every show. So... And he's getting angry finally. So yeah, something's got to be up with him.
I hope so.
Yeah, he takes yet another L here. We're all just kind of waiting for the inevitable heel turn at this point. Match was a perfectly fine undercard tag. Not much of note here. 2 3/4 stars.
Pretty much on point with me. It was a fine match. It got Hanare lost, got angry. And I'm hoping it leads to something soon. I hope they don't drag it out too long.
Definitely Naito making fun of Juice's juice thing, which he stole from Moose. By the way, no one ever remembers that. But yes, the Naito making fun of the Juice arm motion is always a delight. So, match number 3 was the Bullet Club trio of Evil, Kenta, and Yujiro beating Yano, Yoshihashi, and Sho from Chaos. Yujiro pins Yoshihashi in 9:24 with the Pimp Juice.
Crime.
I'm sorry? Oh, a crime that he pinned him.
That's a crime.
This was fine. Again, nothing that's going to knock your socks off. Also, just doing interference and distraction finishes in these 6-mans somehow annoys me even more than doing it in matches that actually matter. It just feels like, really? We can't even do a fucking 6-man tag without this shit?
Right. And Kenta stole Yoshihashi's staff.
So Togo distracted the ref with his garrote wire, acting like he was going to come in the ring with it. So Yujiro could hit Yoshi with his, fucking walking stick or whatever, and then pin him with the Pimp Juice. I guess that might set up a never 6-man title match on the next tour. Be still my heart. You definitely need a Yujiro team getting a...
Let me get those stars ready.
Afterward, the Bullet Club guys beat up the Chaos Wrestlers some more. Who cares?
Yep. That's what I actually wrote on my notes. Who cares?
Match.
I also wrote, I wish the Bullet Club would run out of ammunition.
There you go. Match 2, the Great O-Khan and Jeff Cobb beating Satoshi Kojima and Tomoaki Honma. Cobb pinning Honma in 8:58 with the Tour of the Islands. Just a match. 2.5 stars. I don't know.
That's pretty much boiling down this entire undercard.
Maybe the news of what happened in the main event just soured me on the Empire in general right now, but I wasn't into this really. It was all right.
I wasn't either. I think it was just there.
The opener was Taichi, Zack, and Doki beating Tsuji, Uemura, and Gabriel Kidd. Taichi pinning Tsuji in 10:39 with the dangerous backdrop. This was a fun opener. A good reminder that as great as the Techers often were working babyface, against different teams in the World Tag League and then in the GOD feud, they're still fantastic shit heels as well. So, Taichi coming in the ring and just stepping on Kid repeatedly while Zack had him in the half crowd. That was a great example of that. Unfortunately, Tsuji tried to do something a little too complicated. for him at this stage, I guess. He tried to have Uemura, like, help him on the second rope for a splash off of there on Taichi, but he screwed it up and basically stumbled off the ropes and then had to awkwardly, like, throw himself in the splash with no momentum. So that kind of sucked, but Taichi ended up pinning him with a backdrop. You know, fun opener, screw up aside. I went 3 stars on this. Definitely the best thing of the undercard. Only thing I would even, yeah.
3 stars. I always have a good time with Young Lions, always.
And Dangerous Tekkers. It's good.
And Dangerous Tekkers. Only thing we didn't get was Taichi taking his pants off. I was disappointed.
He didn't take the pants off. So we don't have any cards yet for New Japan. So right now they have a week off, which honestly, thank God. You've kind of said, after all the discourse and the New Japan Cup, I'm very happy to have a week off from New Japan.
In fact, New Japan, don't make any decisions for a few days. I'm worried whatever decision you make now will be a bad one. So take a few days, breathe, think carefully, and then come back.
So Road to Sakura Genesis, very short tour, only 4 shows. Sunday, March 28th in Gunma, which I don't think is televised. And then 2 Korakuens, Monday the 29th, so a week from Monday, and Tuesday the 30th. Again, no cards so far. Thursday in Fukushima, probably won't be televised either. That's Thursday, April 1st. And then we get Sakura Genesis, Sunday, April 4th. We'll see what the actual like matches are here. Besides obviously Kota versus Ospreay. Like they're teasing a lot of stuff, but like they need they need other matches for the fucking Dontaku tour, because Dontaku tour has 4 big shows, Wrestling Satsuma no Kuni, April 28th and 29th, and then Dontaku is a 2-night event again, May 3rd and 4th, and then right after that is the fucking Wrestle Grand Slam tour, with the Yokohama show and the Tokyo Dome show. So a lot of big shows coming up. They're going to need a lot of matches. So it wouldn't surprise me to see Sakura Genesis be like only 1 or 2 title matches and a bunch of undercard tags again, and then save some more stuff like, White Tanahashi or something for the Dontaku shows. So I guess we'll have to wait and see. But yes, that's our New Japan talk. Let us move the fuck on. Move over to something else. So let's go over to Pro Wrestling Noah. They had a Korakuen Hall show today, Sunday, March 21st. The Noah the Infinity, Korakuen Hall, attendance of 678. The big unfortunate news was that Kaito Kiyomiya, missed the show due to a concussion he suffered in the Fukuoka title match against Keiji Muto back on March 14th, which we didn't cover on this show, by the way. I kind of forgot it was happening when I went to do the schedule for the month. And, I don't have strong opinions on the Muto thing. I haven't even watched the Muto Kiyomiya match. It seems like people have really gone to their corners on this, and they either love Keiji Muto as champion or they fucking hate Keiji Muto as champion. And I'm here I'm pretty ambivalent to Keiji Muto as champion. I don't really care that much. So I feel very awkward. And
then I'm in the weird position where I don't like him as champion, but I keep defending his matches.
I don't know. you like the Kiyomiya match? I haven't seen it. People seem to really hate. Some people seem to have really hated it, but
yeah, I know, and I get the hate. I do, but God love me, for whatever reason, I enjoyed the match. I
still gotta watch it,
and I will not apologize for enjoying it. With that being said, it's probably the best I'm going to get out of that reign.
But yeah, so Kiyomiya is off the show here, and we'll have to see how long he's going to be out for.
Yeah. Concussions are never fun.
The main event was for the GHC national title. Kazuyuki Fujita, another bald old man, beats Kano in 1914 with his punt kick to become the 4th champion. Kano fails in his 7th defense. So wow, he had this belt, quite a while with this title reign. I thought this match was awesome. I mean, this was the one awesome match I was talking about. Of all the stuff we're talking about in this show, I don't think you have to watch most of it. I mean, most people seem to like Ospreay Shingo, obviously, but this match was fucking awesome. So both the entire Kongo and Sugiura-gun units accompanied each of them out there, which I liked. It gave this match a more of an epic feel. It's like everybody's out there, all the armies, and they Kongo all did their pose right directly at Fujita, except Nakajima. Nakajima does not do the Kongo pose. Every time this is the case, he is to Kongo what Bret the Hitman Hart was to NWO Hollywood. Because remember, he would never put on the shirt. So that's Nakajima. Nakajima won't do the pose, just like Bret Hart wouldn't put on the shirt. So it's a very 1-to-1 comparison for me. We start off fast here with Kano, hitting some middle kicks. Fujita shrugs them off, hits a big lariat. Then he tries to take Kano out right away with the punt kick. Kano rolls out of the way, and then we get the stare down. Did you know? Had you ever seen the Fujita Go match? Did you have any idea what was going on here?
I never seen the match, but I know what was going on. I know of the legacy of the Go Fujita match.
I don't know what you thought of the stare down. I love the stare down. I mean, I love the original stare down. This one, if anything, I thought it went too short because they only did it for about 6 or 7 minutes. And the fans. So this is the first time they did it in front of fans. I think they might have done it in like a Kano Go tag at some point, but I don't know how long that lasted. Here this is the first time they did it in like a big singles match in front of fans, and the fans were like clapping up. The clapping like they were into it. They kept the clapping all the way through the 5-minute mark, but they did finally trail off because they're like, we can only clap so long, basically. Like eventually your hands start to hurt from clapping that long. So that was as long as they could do it. But what did you think of the stare down?
I went into it thinking I wasn't going to like it, and then it got kind of tense. It was like, okay, which one are you going to break first? I liked it.
What you probably just heard me dropping my phone. My friend had to text me because I guess Randy Orton
I think I wrote in my notes
Alexa Bliss
is
happening right now on Vroom Vroom Fastlane, and he gave me this live report, including quote, "She blew a kiss at him, and he sold it like he got hit by a Hadouken." Sounds like a hell of a match. Anyway,
sounds one heck of a show. I'm glad I'm not watching it.
So we get the stare down. They approach each other finally. Kano throws a leg kick. Fujita shrugs it off, takes him down to the mat, and then Fujita controls Kano on the mat. Not with terribly interesting stuff, just kind of pedestrian mat work. But he does get him in a sleeper as we get the 10-minute call. And then as soon as Kano makes the ropes, Fujita just fucking batters him with these really hard elbow shots.
Yes.
Yeah, the elbow shots are awesome. Yes. And then Kano comes back with some big boots and then some equally hard middle kicks to the chest. And he really keeps kicking the shit out of him in the corner. And Fujita just keeps telling him to bring it. And this part really owned. I mean, Fujita just be like, yes, come on, bring it more and more. Even though you can see the physical effects of these kicks on his body. Like his chest is turning black and blue in front of us. And, he's still like, come on, just keep bringing it. It was just so great.
Straight up, no lie, of all the wrestling I watched not yesterday, that's how tired I am. Today, that was probably my favorite spot. Now, I watch people do 450s through tables, but just give me a spot where someone's just hitting someone as hard as they can. The other guy's like, is that all you got?
By the way, more breaking news from Vroom Vroom Fastlane. Alexa Bliss pinned Randy Orton. There you go.
I cannot hear Vroom Vroom Fastlane and keep a straight face.
But yeah.
When I hear Vroom Vroom, it's like, I can't do it.
But yes, so Fujita slaps Kano in the face, tells him to keep the kicks coming. And then the two of them, the two sides, by the way, on the floor end up arguing. Suguragun act like lumberjacks, and they put Kano back in the ring a little bit later on, just before the 15-minute mark. And then Fujita starts slapping the absolute shit out of Kano's face repeatedly, just destroying him. And we get this absolutely brutal powerbomb from Fujita. He goes for a soccer ball kick and fucking whiffs on it. So that's unfortunate. But then he immediately hits one for the pin anyway. Pins him with one knee, just destroys him with the GHC national title. So, fucking up the finish, obviously not ideal. I took off a quarter star for that, but this still fucking owned. I went 4 stars flat on it. I don't really care about the debate, like, should Fujita have won and blah, 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 blah. But man, Ironhead Fujita always delivers in the end. Like, this guy, he is so maligned in some circles, and he's a guy that people, really talk a lot of shit about as, like, he's not a good draw, obviously. I mean, I don't think anyone would ever argue that. But, he gets so much shit because he came up during this Inokiism period, and he doesn't like to do jobs. But, when it comes right down to it, this guy is in so many awesome matches. This match was awesome. That match he had with Shuhei Taniguchi in Noah in, I think it was, fall 2019. That match was, 4.5 stars, just fucking amazing. If you go back and watch some of his original New Japan run, he has this crazy match for Katsuyori Shibata that rules. This match with Tanahashi that rules. I mean, he's a pretty incredible wrestler. I mean, he what he does, and the fact that he's still going all this time. I mean, the Go match was awesome, and I know some people didn't like it because of the 30-minute stare down. I mean, Fujita's awesome. Fujita always delivers for me, and as long as he keeps having matches like this, he can keep showing up as long as he wants, as far as I'm concerned.
I admittedly am not a Fujita person. That doesn't change the fact that this match fucking ruled. I don't know how I would have done if the stare down went longer because I never watched the Go match. So that might be an interesting test to see.
I feel like that's the thing you had to be there. You had to be watching it live. Like I was.
Yeah, that might make the difference. I think watching the stare down for 5 or 6 minutes, just wanting to see who flinches was pretty awesome, especially with the crowd clapping. I think the crowd clapping helped me, but what really sold this match for me was the kicks in the corner. The kicks in the corner and Fujita's just being like, bring it on, and the slaps. Those slaps were brutal. Just those two spots. Like the whole match is great, other than the whiff, of course. But I'm on 4 stars flat also. Great main event and had my favorite spot of the whole day with those kicks in the
afterwards,
corner.
So Fujita and Sugera, who are, of course, in the same unit, they have a stare down and they shake hands. And I later learned from Hisami on Twitter, of course, you're the person you want to go to for Noah coverage. It's HI5AME, I believe. That's the official title challenge. So that match will happen, which we'll get to as we go over their upcoming shows. I believe it's, Thursday, April 29th in Nagoya at the Nagoya Congress Center. But yeah, that'll be a lot of fun, I think. I mean, that's one of these matches where, I certainly think, the two of them seem like they would be a good pairing. So
it's definitely a good first challenge, knowing what I know of Nagoya.
Nagoya.
Not Nagoya. Nagoya, thank you.
The semi-main event was for the GHC Junior Tag Team titles. Hayata and Yoshinori Ogawa defeating Daisuke Harada and Junta Miyawaki. Hayata pinning Miyawaki in 26-47. Or actually, no, did he submit him or did he pin him? I don't know. It says modified camel clutch. I think he did submit him. Okay. But yes, this was I like this match. I went 3.5 stars on it. Miyawaki ended up taking the brunt of the punishment for his team. Did some pretty good selling, maybe a little over the top and screamy for me, but good. And there was his big comeback where he got to tease. There's this great sequence of strikes from him, and then he got into a big submission tease with a cross armbar. But Ogawa was finally able to make the save. That was really good. And Hayata eventually then came back and submitted Miyawaki for the win. This was definitely the match of the night up to this point. The main event overshadowed it. But, 3.5 stars. Good match. A little long, 27 minutes almost. But I definitely enjoyed it for what it was. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on this one?
I went 3 3/4. I think it might have actually hit 4 for me if they had shaved off some time. I don't think this needed to be a 27-minute match. But I liked it, and I really think Harada and Miyawaki was a good team.
And afterwards, Nosawa and Hidaka arrived and attacked them with the belts to become the next junior tag title challengers. They did win a match earlier in the night, so I guess that made sense. Match number 6 was a 6-man tag team match. Nakajima, Kitamiya, and Soya from Congo beating Nishimura, Inamura, and Kinya Okada when Kitamiya pinned Okada in 16-14 with his Saito suplex. I thought that the highlight here for me was Kitamiya and the ex-Congo member Inamura, colliding like big charging bulls. Definitely the big highlight of the match. Inamura ultimately got the better of that exchange. And this was the best thing on the undercard, the best of the 9 title matches. Both teams brought it, especially Kitamiya, Inamura, and Okada on each team. I mean, those are the highlights for me. And Kitamiya ends up pinning Okada at the end of a physical match here. A little long maybe, again, 16 minutes for an undercard 6-man. But I enjoyed this. 3.25 stars.
I'm right there with you in the star rating, and I'm really into Inamura. Really into him. He's an impressive slab of beef. And I just want to keep seeing him do more and get more experience and just keep doing what he's doing because I really like him.
Match number 5 was a tag team match. Takashi Sugera and Kendo Kashin beating Naomichi Marufuji and Yuko Miyamoto from the M's Alliance. Sugiura pitting Miyamoto in 11:35 with the Olympic Slam. I thought this was all right. I mean, it started with some wacky comedy. Kendo Kashin went to use the COVID shield from the announce table at ringside, and somehow ended up pressing into Sugiura's face for quite a while before noticing he had the wrong man. Typical, I guess, wacky Kendo Kashin comedy. And, Sugiura pinned Miyamoto to end a perfectly fine match, theme of the night, really, for this undercard. And, Marufuji and Sugiura got going, and they produced some fun exchanges. That's enough for me to go 3 stars. It was pretty good.
Yep, my notes say 3 stars and Cashin exists.
Yeah, he didn't do a whole lot, really. Match 4, the loser unit absorption match. So it was the Dark Agents, Saito and Inoue, losing to the Funky Powers, or what the hell is their name again? Funky Express, I think, actually. One of the fans had a sadly misspelled sign that said Fanky Express, which I laughed a lot about. But yes, Muhammad Yoni and Shuei Taniguchi beat Akitoshi Saito and Masao Inoue. Taniguchi beat Inoue with the Funky Press. But yeah, this was, I don't know. This was slow because, half the competitors are ancient and the other two are not exactly spring chickens. But I still enjoyed it. I don't know. The added stakes here made the near falls at the end more exciting. They did a lot of little cradles and stuff. And Taniguchi ends up pinning Inoue with that flying splash. I went 3 stars on it, and I can't wait to see Disco, Funky Saito, and Funky Inoue. It's going to be great.
The power of funk wins overall. The power of funk compels them. That's the way they like it. I get a kick out of the Funky Express. I can't help it.
I mean, Taniguchi actually likes doing this, so that adds a lot to it too, I think.
Yeah, it's slow. The matches usually aren't amazing or anything, but when they come out, I smile. So just keep on being funky, boys. Keep on being funky.
Then we have match number 3, which was Ikuta Hodaka and Nosawa Rongai beating Seiki Yoshioka and Yohei. Nosawa pins Seiki in only 2:25 with a La Magistral Cradle. So, match is tough to rate because it was all 2 minutes, but fast-paced while it lasted. I enjoyed it well enough, I guess. And Nosawa ends up catching Yoshioka with that La Magistral, which I guess continues a losing streak for him after he dropped the junior title to Atsushi Toge last week in Fukuoka. I went 2 3/4. Fun while it lasted, but it was 2 minutes long.
Yeah, I went 2.5, and I do appreciate when matches just sometimes...
Yeah, right?
They catch you off guard because because when near falls happen earlier in later matches, it makes you think this could be it. So I like that.
Match number 2 was Susumu beating Hajime Ohara in 10:22 with a cross face lock. Yeah, I mean, this was another one for the current regime doesn't care about Ohara list. It was fine. I'd say 3 stars. Nothing got to go out of your way to see or anything, but enjoyable enough.
I'm pretty much the same. I don't really have much
There's
more
not a lot
to
to
say
say about these undercard matches. I mean, kind of were what they are.
Yeah.
The opener is the only match here I didn't see. I was watching live, but I started a little bit late, and I did not have time to go back and watch it today with the other 2 shows. But the result here was Hao, Neo, and Tadasuke beating Katoge, Kawai Fujimura, and Yasutaka Yano. Neo pinning Fujimura in 12:28 with a Stuka splash. And he will be the next junior title challenger for Katoge, which I don't know if I really need to see the former Hiroki in a junior title singles match, but sure, whatever.
The match was fine. That's what my thoughts were on it. I really like Yano, which is funny because in another company I don't like a person named Yano. So it's nice having the Yano I like.
There you go. So that was the Noah show. I mean, I would say nothing wrong with the show. I mean, a lot of the undercard matches were fine. The Star main event was good. Yep. Main event was awesome. So it was definitely the strongest of 3 shows, I would say.
I had a good time watching this show. Yeah. I'm glad I fit it in.
So that brings us... Let's see what's coming up for Noah. There's a couple shows that we will definitely... I think I say definitely, but I think I have them on the schedule. Yes, we will definitely cover on Omakase next month. First of all, the April 18th Korakuen. So that will be Sunday, April 18th. That show... has the junior title match I just mentioned, Katoge against Neo. has a tag team main event with Keiji Muto and Marufuji against Kano and Masa Kitamiya. Of course, building up the Muto Kitamiya single title match. We have another build-up match, Fujita and Kendo Kashin against Sugiura and Sakuraba. And then, a bunch of undercard tags after that. But Ogawa, Hayata, Susumu against Kotaro Suzuki, Ikuta Hodaka, and Nosawa Rangai to build up, the junior tag title match. And there you go. Some undercard tags. Looks like a good little card. That's Neo Breeze 2021. And then the big show for the month, though, is April 29th at the Nagoya Congress Center. And they kind of load up this show. I mean, they don't often do heavyweight and national title matches in the same show. They like to spread those out a bit. I'm like suddenly hiccuping. I'm sorry. Heavyweight and junior and national title matches in the same show. But this one, I guess they want to draw a crowd here in Nagoya. So the main event, Keiji Muto versus Masa Kitamiya for the heavyweight title. You also get the Kazuki Fujita versus Sugiura national title match. And then on top of that, a junior tag title match, Ogawa and Hayata against Hidaka and Nosawa Rangai. So that should be interesting. I'm definitely most interested in that Fujita Sugiura match, as I mentioned earlier. But yes, we will definitely cover that on Omakase next month. So look forward to that. Okay, so let's get into All Japan now. So their show was also from today, March 21st, in Kyoto, the Kyoto KBS Hall. Interesting just to see a big All Japan show. Not that this was like a gigantic show or anything, but it had a couple title matches, away from Tokyo. They don't often run, big shows outside of Tokyo or Osaka even. Sometimes run shows at Osaka 80 on usually number 2. But this was, their first show I can remember in a while that aired on All Japan .tv from the KBS Hall, which that glass sure looks cool, huh? The church glass. I've been in the building.
Loved it.
I went there for a DDT show in 2019. It looks pretty damn cool in person too. So
I can imagine. I have in my notes. In my notes it says
it's only on the one side though. It looks a little weird when you're there, but yeah, it's like pretty much just on the hard cam side. But yeah, still very cool. Yeah,
but for watching at home, it works.
So the main event here was Suwama defeating Yoshitatsu in 27-14 with a backdrop hold to retain the Triple Crown title for the 7th time. 387 fans here, by the way. This Yoshitatsu was in Dark Side Yoshitatsu mode. He had the half face paint. This match was so slow. I mean, neither guy was doing much of anything interesting. Early on, like Yoshitatsu took a powder. He did this little hot shot on Suwama over the top rope, and then hit a pretty terrible slingshot elbow from the apron back in the ring, where it looked like his elbow never made any actual contact with Suwama's chest.
It was so bad.
Like he elbowed the air. The match was just so slow and boring. By the time Suwama finally hits a nice lariat, it feels like we've been waiting for eons just for a half-decent spot. But it did kind of pick up. Like, Yoshitatsu got some kind of, single leg hold, which I guess was supposed to be his big dramatic, maybe he'll actually win the title spot. And Suwama is a very underrated seller. Like, he's very good at selling. And, he did a really great job selling this leg hold, even though nobody on earth thought he was losing the title here. At one point, he makes the ropes. Yoshi just pulls him back to the middle without Wada making him break the hold. That's pretty dumb. I complain about that a lot. It's just, if he has a rope break, I give him the rope break. Yoshi then hits this big swinging DDT out of the corner, and suddenly the ref is teaching some kind of stoppage just around the 20-minute call. And, Yoshi kind of goes to pick him up. He collapses, so Wada starts counting a 10-count knockdown. And then Yoshitatsu, for some reason, picks him up himself at 6, instead of letting Wada complete his count and maybe award him the Triple Crown title. So what does he do to ruin the 10 count? He hits some very weak elbows. It's like, okay, you should have probably just let the guy get the 10 count. All you're going to do is hit some weak elbows. And Suwama tries to fight back. Yoshitatsu hits him with a flatliner, locks in a Koji clutch. Good transition to the Koji clutch. The referee teases stopping it. Yoshi lets go of the hold like an idiot. That was twice, basically. He's done something dumb where it looks like he's had it 1. And goes for the pin, but Suwama kicks out at 2. And Yoshi tries for a backdrop, but Suwama counters his own backdrop suplex. We get a double knockdown tease before Suwama gets up and hits a deadlift German, covers for a 2 count, and then he ends up hitting a series of like brutal-looking backdrop suplexes. Yoshitatsu still kicks out too. Suwama follows up with a lariat. Yoshitatsu like absorbs it. Suwama hits a second one that knocks him down for another 2 count, and then finally hits a backdrop hold, and that's the pin. So way too long, really boring for a long time. They did pull it out of the fire to some degree with a pretty damn good closing stretch. The only thing I didn't like about the closing stretch is like first they're going after the leg, and we get this tap out tease, and then suddenly they're going after the neck, and we get this knockout tease, and it's like, wouldn't it have been more effective if you picked one and gone with that for the entire closing stretch? Just seems weird they switched back and forth. So the closing stretch wasn't even perfect to me. I'll go 2 3/4. That might be generous. It's way too long to recommend it. Maybe if you want to fast forward to the 20-minute mark and watch the last like 17 minutes, I can kind of recommend that. But yeah, just, not very good. It was very skippable, just like the rest of the show, pretty much. Yes,
I think it's very telling that I've avoided yawning on this podcast, and right when we started talking about this match, the yawns came. I gave it 2 1/4, and even that feels a little generous. I'm really giving it for the closing, because I thought the closing was really good. But yeah, it's 2021, and it's a Yoshitatsu title challenge.
I feel like this was.
You're gonna get exactly what
I feel like
those
this was the bone they tossed him
promised.
because they left him at a champion carnival this year, which thank God they did.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, good on him for getting it, but 2 1/4. Congratulations on those 2 stars, buddy.
Then we have the semifinal, which was the World Junior Title match. Shima beats Izanagi only 11:43 with the Spartan Cut, his new finisher, his variation of the final cut to make his first defense. I don't know. This is pretty good, I guess. He hit a Meteora on the back for a near fall, and then followed up with that new move of his, which the final cut itself didn't look that great. It's like his elbow to the back of the neck to push down for the Spartan Cut. But like it just looked like the actual pressing down was awkward, and it just didn't look well timed at all. So yeah, this was just pretty good. Never got to any kind of great level for me. I went 3 1/4. Nothing I gotta.
I went a flat 3. I thought it was good for what it was. There was one moment where like Zonga, he's on the top rope and Shima open hand slaps him, and just sends him tumbling to the outside.
His Venus.
I really like that spot.
Venus slap.
Yeah, the Venus slap. I really like that spot. And I really like the Meteora to the back of the head. Those are the 2 things that stand out. Just nothing really much more to be said. Just 3 stars.
Match number 4 was a 8-man tag. The new Total Eclipse stable. Jake Lee, Tajiri, and Akoto Omori and Kuma Arashi beating Kento Miyahara, Yuma Aoyagi, Atsuki Aoyagi, and Rising Hayato. Jake Lee pins Hayato in 16:52 with the D4C, which is his big delayed brainbuster. Total Eclipse, I talked about last week. Great theme song. They have great badass heel energy. They somehow, like, all black for heel unit is like the most played out thing in the world, but they somehow make it work. Like their black and silver like heel unit looks kind of fresh. Maybe their logo just looks really good too, which helps. So very just well thought out, well designed unit, I have to say. Yeah, this went a little longer than I was expecting, but mostly fun. I went 3 stars. Totally fine match.
3 stars, and and I don't know much about All Japan. I'm not going to pretend to, but right off the back, I really like the unit. They look good. They feel like they click, and they just have this attitude that just comes from them. I think it's a good unit, and it really helped in this match.
Afterwards, Lee points at the sky in front of Kento, which is a big pose now, and then he lowers his head and smiles at him. That was kind of neat, and I'm definitely looking forward to their match in the Champion Carnival. Match 3, the highlight of the undercard for me, Zeus and Kazuyaki Mihara beating Koji Iwamoto and Ryuki Honda. Zeus submitting Honda in 9:40 with his face lock. Now, I have no idea who Kazuyaki Mihara is. He's apparently like some old associate from Osaka Pro, I guess. But sometimes I just want to see a kind of fat guy in a tank top going hard in elbow exchanges like he did here at Ryoki Honda. So I like him. Just very Japanese indie sleaze here, but in a very charming way. And, Zeus ends up tapping out Honda with his deadly chinlock. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I was surprised the undercard. This Miyahara guy was fun. Mihara, not Miyahara. This Mihara guy was fun. I went 3 1/4. That's pretty good.
Another straight 3 for me, but 3's not necessarily bad for undercard. It just means it was there and I had fun, but I moved on after that. But I can totally understand why you got the jollies out of Mihara.
Match number 2, Shotaro Ashino, Hikaru Sato, and Dan Tamura. Ashino continues to team up with the Evolution Boys. That's interesting since the end of Enfants. So they beat Ishikawa, Omori, and Black Menso Ray. Sato, submits Menso Ray in 11:06. I didn't mention this, but he came out to challenge Shima for the junior title after their match, that'll be an interesting styles clash. So that'll be cool to see. But yeah, that makes sense for why he got the fall here. No challenger for Suwama because Champion Carnival is next, of course. But yeah, this was a fun little 6-man tag. I went 3 stars on it. Not a ton to say about it really, but enjoyed it.
I would say 3 stars again. I feel like a broken record at this point. And what I wrote down I took 0 notes on this match, which is lame because that's technically a note.
There's not much to say about it. It's fine. The opener was Francesco Akira losing to Yusuke Kodama in 8:14 with a La Magistral Cradle. Funny that both Noah and All Japan the same day had a La Magistral finish. But yes, Kodama wins a fun little opener. 3 stars again. Just not much to say about these undercard All Japan matches, but this was fine.
3 stars, fun opener, the type of opener that, makes me hope the rest of the show is going to be good.
The show was fine. That's what I would say. It wasn't like a bad... Yeah.
The show ended up being fine. Like, I don't regret watching it. I do regret watching it immediately after New Japan Cup. I should have taken a breather and come back to it.
Noah was the highlight of the 3 shows, I think. Yeah.
Noah was the highlight of the 3 shows. I agree.
All right, folks. So let's quickly go over the upcoming All Japan stuff. So there is a show that's going to air on VOD on alljapan.tv next Sunday, the 28th, from Saitama. I don't really think there's anything worth seeing on this show, honestly. It looks like just a show. It's the wrap-up of the Dream Power series, but it's like a next stream special, so they're all going to... there are some singles matches on it, I guess, that are interesting. Ryuki Honda's trial series. He faces Totaro Ashino here. Yusuke Kodama faces Francisco Akira, another singles match. Yoshitatsu faces someone by the name of Noboru Uchida. I don't even know who that is. There's a tag team match with Shuji Ishikawa and Koji Iwamoto against Omori and Black Bunso Ray. A 6-man with Jake Lee, Tajiri, and Hokuto Omori versus Suwama, Hikaru Sato, and Dan Tamura. And then the main event will be a tag team match. It's kind of a special match. So the Next Stream special, the 4 members of Next Stream, Kento Miyahara, Yuma Aoyagi, Atsuki Aoyagi, and Rising Hayato will be chosen split into 2 tag teams that night by a lottery. Will it be a shoot lottery or worked lottery? I don't know. Who knows? But supposedly we'll get a lottery here and we'll choose 2 teams. So we'll see if Kento and Yuma are obviously the tag champions. Will they end up on opposite sides? I will say right now, if the teams end up being Yuma and his brother against Kento and Hayato, I'm calling shenanigans on the shoot lottery. I think that was predetermined then. But if it's like Kento and Atsuki against Yuma and Hayato, I'll buy it that it was maybe a real lottery. So there you go. That's your next All Japan show. Again, that'll be on VOD on alljapan.tv. Nothing I'm really going to go on my way to see or anything. And then after that, the Champion Carnival kicks off on Friday, April 9th. So we got a ways to go here. About, almost 3, not quite 3 weeks, a little under 3 weeks, but that kicks off at the Ideon Arena, second arena, and it's a pretty interesting schedule. It's they're basically trying to run as many weekends as possible, where they're running the 9th, 10th, 11th, so Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and it goes like Osaka, Nagoya, Niigata, then they take a whole bunch of days off, then they go to Tokyo on the 17th at Shinkiba, so Saturday the 17th, and then Sunday the 18th, in Chiba at the 2AW Square. Then they take another 5 days off. Then Saturday the 24th at the Shinkiba again. Sunday the 25th at Korakuen. Then another couple days off where we finally get some midweek action. Wednesday the 28th in Yokohama, and Thursday the 29th in Korakuen again. And that is the finals. So the Korakuen show is the last one. And again, it's a one-block tournament, 10 wrestlers. They're all going to face each other, so that's why it's 9 shows. And that's pretty much all there's. And there's no final. So it's like the old school champion carnivals where, just whoever has the most points at the end wins. So presumably there will have to be a tiebreaker match if 2 wrestlers tie, because that's how Champion Carnival always does things. They don't do the tiebreaker based on wins or whatever. So we'll have to wait and see. But that'll be so the wrestlers in it, by the way, if you the listener have forgotten, it's Suwama, Kohei Sato, Zeus, Kento Miyahara, Yuma Aoyagi, Shinjiro Otani, Shuji Ishikawa, Koji Doi, Jake Lee, and Shotaro Ashino. Some pretty cool lineup there, especially again with them all facing each other. Some cool matches I'm looking forward to. And they start right off the bat with the Jake Lee Ashino showdown, after Lee orchestrated the Total Eclipse turn. So that happens right away on night 1 in the Indian Arena Osaka. So that should be interesting. Also the Zeus Kento match on night 1. Ishikawa takes on Koji Doi, Yuma against Otani, and Suwama against Kohei Sato. So that's your first night of action. And again, we will cover all those shows, except for one that will be covered on the free show. But the rest of it will be covered exclusively on the Omakase Patreon. So definitely check that out next month if you want to hear daily coverage of the All Japan Champion Carnival. Patreon.com/Wrestling Omakase. All right. Jerry, can wrap things up here. Anything you want to plug?
Yeah. Yes, I'm going to plug the podcast I'm on WePlayRPGspodcast.com, where we do our campaign and we do a couple of superhero games as well. You can find me on Twitter at Jarius_Jer with my lukewarm takes. They're very lukewarm, I'm going to warn you. And, of course, you can find me writing on voicesofwrestling.com under Jeri Evans. My most recent article is me being an unapologetic fangirl of Maki Ito. So,
and
there
folks,
you go.
Of course, you can follow us on Twitter at Wrestling Omakase, Wrestling When I'm Fit. And that'll do it. I just plugged the Patreon, so I'm not going to do that again. But that'll pretty much wrap us up here. Again, no episode on the free feed next week. It'll be our week off like we've been doing now, just because I do a lot of audio now. But we'll be back in 2 weeks on the free feed. On Sunday, April 4th, I'll be reviewing the Sakura Genesis show from New Japan and the DDT March 28th Korakuen, which has the Jun Akiyama versus Kasada Higuchi KOD title match main event. I'll be reviewing both of those shows with Neil David from Voice of Wrestling, a first-time guest. So that'll be exciting. So again, no free show next week, but you can hear the WrestleMania Retro Roulette on the Patreon with myself and Quinn the next Sunday. Or Saturday, I don't know, whichever day we end up doing it. In the meantime, thank you as always for listening, and I will see you next time.
For the ones who know safety isn't a catchphrase, it's a culture. And the ones who help make sure everyone makes it home safe. For the safety-minded who watch everyone's backs, Grainger offers supplies and solutions for every industry, as well as safety assessments and training to keep your facilities safe and your people safer. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.